I'm actually gonna say my favorite moments of this, like, I'll explain why, but my favorite moments of this whole process were probably how everything started going wrong in the beginning. So basically, like, let me explain to you what happened.
I'm like not latching onto a specific memory, but one thing I was just reflecting on, which I don't think I've actually said this, but I think, my childhood was really where I got invested into like.
Oh no. Time to expose myself.
Sorry.
No, nothing to be sorry about. This is great. Okay.
Hey! You gotta answer the question, man.
I know.
Don't make me answer.
I'm prepping the story in my head of a perfect way to tell it.
I guess we can just start off with introductions. My name is Chris. I'm a writer at a Swedish online magazine called Aspect. Today we're joined by Keralanka, a hip-hop duo from Toronto, Canada. And the name, doing my research, is a combination of Kerala and Sri Lanka, right?
Yeah.
And I'll let you introduce yourselves.
Yeah, sure. I can start off. I'm djAP. I'm the producer and engineer for the group.
Yeah.
And I'm Rohan, and I'm a rapper and producer for the group.
All right, cool. First of all, how are you doing? Especially during quarantine and all that. How are you keeping busy and whatnot?
Yeah, lots of just making, I guess, lots of music, working on a lot of cool projects and whatnot, trying to use the time to the best we can to sort of progress our art, I guess, is like how we're sort of doing it.
Yeah, just trying our best to adapt to the current situation and make the most of it, really.
Yeah.
How about you, man?
I've been reading a lot, listening to a lot of music, and there's been a lot of music live streams, so I've been like catching up with Tory Lanez, those messy Instagram lives.
Really dope live stream. I saw it was super high production.
Yeah.
Oh that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Lots of different interests. Let's go.
I noticed one of your tracks was named Vegeta. Are you perhaps Dragon Ball Z fans or anime fans in general, or?
No. I'll let you take this one.
Listen, first of all, AP is not a Dragon Ball Z fan. I hate him for that.
I know.
Everything Dragon Ball Z. Right? He's more of a Pokemon guy. I personally think Pokemon is so overrated. Okay, and Dragon Ball is so much better. Okay.
Yeah.
Pick the wrong anime.
I'm sure I would have been a Dragon Ball Z fan if I just watched more of it, but I just haven't watched enough of it.
Yeah. But no, I'm a Dragon Ball Z fan, and I wrote that. Being that I wrote that track, I wrote that. I guess not like I didn't start off being like I'm gonna make a track called Vegeta, but it's sort of evolved into that. Yeah.
Dope. I like that track.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Besides yourselves, how are the people close to you doing? Family, close friends, etc.
Yeah, good, man. Like I think. Oh, sorry. AP, I can start, I guess. Just I moved back home for quarantine just to be with my parents. So I think it's been a really I've sort of recontextualized it and reframed it in my mind as like an opportunity to just like spend more time with your family and loved ones and really value those things that maybe you took for granted as a kid and like when you were younger. So from that perspective, it's sort of been a blessing in disguise, just being able to spend more time with them, eat dinner with them every day, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'd say same thing here. Just spending a lot more time playing like board games, just doing more stuff at home, which is nice.
Little things,
yeah, and everyone else is like they're dealing well with it. Like my parents are both working from home. My sister's off school, so she's fine. So
yes, in general, how strongly has this impacted you financially, not being able to perform? Because you're a full-time artist, right?
Yeah.
So now when gigs and stuff are canceled. How are you managing, or how rough is it right now for you?
I think we're trying to find like creative ways around just sort of like substituting for it. I think, from sort of day one of quarantine, like I hit up AP and I was like, man, we got to start thinking through like how this is going to affect, because we actually had a show planned for August. Where, yeah, every time we do a show in Toronto, we try to double the capacity. And so our last Toronto show was 250 people. And so we wanted to do a show with 500 people coming out in August. And so as the sort of quarantine stuff started to progress, I started to think to myself, there's a high possibility that either, this is going to get pushed back significantly a couple months, or it's just not going to happen this year. And so I think we've always had that in the back of our mind. And that's why we thought of things like the 24-hour EP to sort of like substitute, so that we could actually find other ways to not only like make money, but like more so just be able to build a fan base in through other means, and just be able to like find a creative way to sort of stay top of mind in front of our fans. And so we didn't really expect, but even during that 24-hour EP, like we ended up raising about $2,000 just off like donations and everything. So
like
saving grace is we've figured out other ways to sort of like fuel the machine during the quarantine. I'm definitely very grateful. I'm very grateful to our fans for that.
Yeah, exactly. I think like just finding Twitch at this time was dope. It's just really helped us, and we're gonna keep experimenting it with that to see how we can constantly use that and like maybe build it up to a higher level. Actually, even like this week, something we're experimenting with is just streaming a bit more regularly and finding what times work the best, and how we can then like monetize that in the future.
So this EP was the process in this one. Was it your first ever live stream on Twitch?
That was our first ever Twitch live stream.
Yeah.
Like we've streamed live.
We've had practice with live streaming before, right? I mean, we used to run a show called the Keralanka Show on YouTube, where we would interview a guest, bring them in, talk to them for an hour, and we would make a beat based on their whole life story in 1 hour.
Yeah.
And
cool.
so, so we've had a little bit of practice with live streaming, but that was we did that on YouTube. So this is our first Twitch live stream.
Okay, dope. I was just wondering also, since we got contacted through Reddit, through Kendrick Lamar's subreddit, I saw your comment there. Oh, no, you messaged me when you saw my comment. I was wondering if you had a background in marketing or promotion, or are you just doing this like improvising or trying stuff out, or you have any like background in it?
So a lot of it is just testing stuff out and seeing what works. I mean, like the Reddit messages thing was like one thing that we're like, hey, let's see how people will respond to this. Like if we just reach out to people. I think like I'm going to speak for myself. Rohan can speak for himself, but like I was a bit skeptical at first. We've done it like once before. But like, especially on a place like Reddit where people are very guarded, it's like it makes sense for me to like be a bit skeptical at like, are people going to react positively to this, or are they going to just be like, yo, just like get lost,
the fuck out.
Like we don't want you. But it turned out like there was a very like great overall positive response, which like was so dope. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, there were people that said fuck off.
100%. But I expected them to be like a much larger percent.
Yeah. They all came from the Tyler the Creator subreddit. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think I think what ended up happening is the majority of people we reach out to are super positive and just supportive, and like we're actually genuinely interested in the process. The reason we went for Reddit is because I noticed that people on Reddit in general are a bit more interested and lean into the music process, the music creation process. They're not just interested in like listening to music, but also like sort of investigating the process behind it. And so I think a lot of people were interested from that standpoint. And I think that's sort of what led us to doing it. And when we saw like an overwhelmingly like majority of people responding were like being super positive and supportive. We were like, this is awesome. Let's sort of keep at it. And from a marketing standpoint, I went to school for business. So like I definitely do have an interest in marketing. Like that's definitely one of my passions. Like a lot of my role models when it comes to like even rap music are like Jay-Z, Nipsey Hussle, Russ. They're guys who not only have conquered sort of the music side of things, but they've done really well from like sort of an entrepreneurial like marketing side of it too.
Yeah, I think that's an interest we both share too, is like just like we're very interested in the marketing side of things and always willing to just experiment and grow and then fail, like just try things out and just fail.
We're always going to try everything at least once to see how it works, right?
Exactly, I can tell. It looks like just by like a quick glance at all your social medias, you like dabble in a little bit of everything, like TikTok and yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, yes, TikTok. Sorry, TikTok. That's funny.
Just a little fun question. What's the nerdiest thing you enjoy, like a hobby or?
Ooh, I like that. I don't know if this is nerd. Oh wait, sorry. AP, do you want to start or should I start?
No, you start. I'm thinking.
I know this wouldn't be considered complete, and there's probably a ton of things. I won't mention marketing and that kind of stuff, but I know this wouldn't be considered nerdy, but it really is when you dig into it, like into how into it I am. I'm super into like battle rap, like rap battle culture. Okay. And the reason I say it's because I think most people think of rap battles as like 8 Mile and that kind of stuff, but there's like a whole culture behind it, man. Like I can name like the best battle, like the most popular battle rapper from like 2008 all the way to 2020. I have like lyrics memorized from battles from like 2009. I'm just super into the culture and I go to like every event. I've gone to events alone before because I used to not have any friends into battle rap. So I'd be like, man, fuck this. I'm just going to go alone and meet people I've met online. So that's why I sort of think it's like a nerdy passion of mine. But yeah, that's definitely one that I'm super into. Yeah,
that's dope.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm trying to think. I feel like everything I get super into, I get pretty nerdy about. I'm like the type of guy who like, if I get into something, I'm gonna be eating lunch and watching YouTube videos about it and like all the technicalities and everything. So I'd be like,
actually, AP, you just mentioned one. Food. I feel like super into
yeah. Food is definitely one of those. Like cooking is one of those things. Mixing. Anything where I can get super in depth and just like learn the intricacies of it, I'm down.
Yeah,
we're always like, whenever we're like taking a break from making music and we're like, let's say we're listening to a new demo, right? Like we just made a new song, and AP and I will be listening to a demo, and then we're eating like this like new chicken curry with rice, and then I'll be like, oh, what do you think, AP? And he's just lost in trance, and he's like, oh man, this is so dope, and I'm like, yeah, the song's like fire, right? And he's like, oh, sorry, no, man. What? No, this chicken.
Yeah.
Incredible. Your mom marinates this. I'm like, dude, listen to the song.
Yeah. So food. There we go.
All right. The one. I would say for me, it's probably. The cliche thing would be like music, just like spending hours, but maybe anime. I like a lot of anime.
That's dope. Yeah, do you watch? It's interesting. Rap and anime are very intertwined these days.
Yeah. I love all the. There's so many like. The most like obvious ones are Dragon Ball Z references, but I really love Denzel Curry. He also he really incorporates it well.
They had a. Did you watch the video with Kenny Beats for his album Ultimate?
Yeah.
They have an anime part in there, right?
Yeah, that was really cool. Oh, speaking of Kenny Beats, I saw you. He shouted you out.
Yeah, that was dope.
How did that feel? Just having someone on that level notice you.
It was really cool, man. I don't know if you even remember us this day because you see so many people on Twitter. It was dope to it was dope to see him like just recognize us and sort of like encourage us, even just take like 10 seconds out of his day to like be like, hey, you guys are doing this 24-hour EP thing. Like, it's not going to be easy, but like, I bet you can do it. Like, I think it's really dope what he's done with the producer community. I take it in stride. Like, I think it's awesome. And, it's just every time one of these things happens, the way I think about it is like, there's 10,000 steps to success and just like carving out our own path. And that was just another step in regards to like getting there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm on board with that. Don't really have much to add to that.
All right. I guess we'll go into, if you're up for it, into your upbringing. Could you tell me a little bit about yourselves as young men? What were you like in school, high school? How was those early years of your lives?
Cool. Should I start?
You want to take this one? Yeah, you can start. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I moved here. I moved to Canada when I was 8 years old. So sort of that immigrant, I think, lifestyle and just experience, I think, will always stick with you, even as you go through life. And high school, definitely just nerdy kid trying to find myself. A lot more introverted, I'd say, than I am right now. Which I still have my moments of introversion, but I think over time you sort of go into your like outside of your shell and whatnot. But yeah, high school. Wow, I haven't thought about high school in so long. What was I like in high school? Yeah, a lot more shy, a lot more introverted, a lot less, I'd say, like embracing of the things that I really want to do and put out there. Like even, I rapped in high school, but I would never tell people I rap because I always felt like that's not something I have to say, And I think growing up, I started to realize that it's better to actually put yourself out there and embrace like who you are and what you want to be, because until you give yourself that energy, no one else is going to reflect that energy back to you, right? Yeah, hope that answered the question.
Yeah.
So I was born here, but my parents both immigrated here from Sri Lanka, back in like 1992, something like that. Yeah, I was brought up a lot with like the influences of like the Tamil culture and stuff like that, like a lot of the music and stuff like that, and then also like my dad was super into like reggae and like reggae, disco, like all of those genres as well. So I like grew up with a lot of that. In high school, I was still like I'd say I was like still a very outgoing guy. But like music wise, like in high school, I never thought like this would be the path that I took. It was like in high school, it was like the beginning of the dream, I guess I'd say. It was like the first time I ever like thought about it. I was watching like this Ryan Leslie, this YouTube video where he's like producing in his studio.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, "Whoa, that's so cool! Like that would be so cool to do that." But this guy's like playing trumpets and like, "Hey, I need a trumpet. Let me go order one and get it shipped to my door and play."
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how to play anything. I can play the drums, but like I'm like I don't know how to play anything. So it's like in high school, like I had a very like set vision. Like I'm gonna go to school and I'm gonna become a psychologist, which I still want to do, but not right now. Because then this dream started growing, and then that's where I am right now. Yeah.
You mentioned Tamil. I know very little about it, but I saw you mention it somewhere on a podcast earlier, which featured you. And I researched it because I knew nothing about it, and I found it seemed like a very like broad term to say Tamil music. It's like saying English music or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I was a bit confused at first, but I found some really cool stuff. There was this guy named, I don't know if I'm gonna butcher this name, but Jogi B.
Oh yeah. He's actually a rapper in Malaysia.
Yeah.
Rapper in Malaysia, yeah. I've heard of him. I don't know too much about him, but I know his name. Yeah.
And
what?
What?
I said you've done your research, Chris.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's dope.
That's awesome, man.
All right, back to yes, your upbringing. Some of your like favorite memories from your childhood, if that's not too personal.
No, that's a great question.
Man. We're artists. Nothing's too personal.
Yeah. By the way, I'm loving these questions. It's like it's very, very original, and like I love how you've done your research too. So
yeah, thanks.
Great. It's awesome to see other people like really dive into their craft. You know,
yeah.
Especially like really appreciate that as musicians. Like that's awesome, man. That you're still thinking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Memories from childhood. Good question. Oh man, so many, but I gotta. If you give me a second, just
sure.
Gotta narrow it down a bit.
Yeah.
We can return to that question later if you want to. If you want some time to think.
I just need to. I haven't thought about that. Like,
yeah.
Just meditate on it.
Or maybe that was wrong to say your favorite, one of your favorites instead.
For sure. Yeah.
For sure. Oh man, I'm trying to think of something that was like pivotal that like shaped me into who I am.
I think I can start.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not even a specific memory, but just like a collection of like events. I'd say is like as a child, like since my dad immigrated here from Sri Lanka, like he has 4 other siblings, and they all immigrated here before him. And then he was like the second last one, and then his like sister also came. So like basically, we all live in the same neighborhood. So those are all my uncles and aunts, and so I grew up with all my cousins from like the day I was born.
Yeah.
So like just a lot of those memories, I would say, is like like going to parks and having picnics in the summer, or just like having like these huge family parties during the winter. Yeah, just like that those collections of memories are like always gonna stick with me. Yeah.
Cool.
I also have a what?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
I also have a big family. I grew up very closely with my cousins, so I can relate a bit. But I'm sure it was like a bit different. I would have liked to experience I've heard you mention before, like a lot of more like parties where you would play music. We didn't really have that here.
Got you.
But that would be cool.
Yeah, I would say like
that's
actually
cool.
A lot of my
Costa, I think he's referring to what you said on the Creative Friends podcast.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, it's cool because like a lot of my the music I listened to in the earlier days, like as a kid, like a lot of it was inspired by like that setting too, I guess, which is why I would also hold those memories like closer to me.
Yeah. For me, you know, again, like not latching onto a specific memory, but one thing I was just reflecting on, which I don't think I've actually said this, but I think, you know, my childhood was really where I got invested into like, so again, it's not a specific memory, but something I think has been pivotal is just because I was like an immigrant kid and I didn't really dive into like making many friends initially in real life. Like I struggled to make a lot of friends. I sort of resorted, I think, to online communities and like really dope like anime and, you know, books and that kind of stuff. And I, you know, like other universes, like fictional universes. I realized that's like sort of a core theme of like what really defined me as a kid is realizing the power of stories and how stories can really affect you, even if you're sort of like alone and you're struggling like internally. It's like that, like being brought into another world can really help you cope with that and really help expand your perspective. And so, you know, like watching like Dragon Ball Z as a kid, Yu-Gi-Oh, like reading Harry Potter, I think I really grew an appreciation for the arts and just, you know, overall like authors and like writers and musicians who are able to create a universe to bring you into. So I think that's such a powerful and dope concept. And I realize now, I'm only realizing it now, so I thank you for asking that question, but I don't think I'd be as invested into the arts and making my own music if I hadn't sort of had that specific type of childhood upbringing, you know, really focusing in on like the fictional sort of side of things. So I'm really grateful for all the artists out there that helped expand my imagination, because even as we make our own music, you know, we don't just make music. Like maybe you might have seen it, but we also like have skits and like all this other stuff. At our live shows, we have like a storyline of skits in between every 3 to 4 songs. And so really, I think where that comes from is sort of the infatuation with the idea of creating a universe and creating a world outside of outside of the existing world, which I think is super exciting. Yeah,
that's a great answer. I couldn't have asked for. I couldn't have asked for more. And I definitely agree. All right, another like random question, but where do you see yourself at 70 years old?
Ooh, nice. I like that question.
yeah, man.
Something something I actually think about more than you'd think. Is I like to visualize myself at that age, and like the way I visualize myself at that age is like me looking back on everything I've done up to that point. Like not just career wise, but just all like basically the way I look at it is like it's like we're just building this. We're like building a story for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
What we have been at that age, like you're at the older ages, like you're able to look back on and like appreciate even more in depths that you might not have appreciated in the moment too sometimes, right? I mean, like we do it a lot now too, is like we have certain moments like in the studio, for example, or even just like we're just chilling out, and it's like we'll appreciate something about it like a year later or 2 years later, right? And it's like I kind of look at it that way. It's like there's just so much to be done up to that point, and like at 70 I kind of see myself living like a it's just a more like chilled out life, like just enjoying life and like enjoying everything I've done up to that point. And yeah, I see myself on a house on the beach.
Where specifically, AP? What
in New Zealand? In New Zealand.
Okay. Why New Zealand? Any specific reason?
I'm a very outdoors person. I love going outside, just being in the sun and biking, like walking. Like I love everything adventure related outside. So I've been to New Zealand once, and even before that, it was like I just heard it was a very outdoors place, and I went there and I was like, wow, this place is amazing. I loved it. So that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, at 70, I'll be flying from Canada to New Zealand to visit AP.
Yeah.
I think, similar. I think what's dope is, it's hard to say because I don't know what I'll care about 10 years from now, but I can speak to present moment and perception of what I think I would like to be at 70. I think, like I say this to AP a lot, we'll have like very reflective moments where we'll look at, the things we've experienced. We don't just think about it from a career standpoint. We think about it as we're building a story of experiences that are just really dope experiences that genuinely make us fulfilled and happy as humans. And for an example, right, it's like I don't think about it from perspective of like, career accomplishment. It's more so like, doing the thing that we love the most has led to so many like dope things that like non-monetary, like really dope experiences that we've been able to like experience that, only like X percentage of the population will ever get to like experience, right? Like even just playing Go and just having 250 people pay to see you, like specifically, it's like, and just chant your lyrics. It's like, I'm so grateful for that, right? Yeah. And I know I'll be reflecting on that when I already have memories that I know I'll be reflecting on forever. But on top of that, like even small things, like I flew out to India. And I just, on a whim, I was like on my Instagram story, I was like, hey, I know we have some fans here. If anyone wants to do a meet and greet, hit me up. And I was like, yeah, no one's going to message me. And like multiple fans were like, hey, I want to grab lunch. And like, I ended up grabbing lunch with fans, and they were telling me about their high school experiences being affected by our music and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, shit, man.
That's great.
So, even though we're like small, it's like that doesn't matter. What matters is connecting with people and genuinely like making a connection with our fans. I'm so grateful for that. And I think those are the things that I'll look back on. And I think even at 70, I'll be like, I can't believe that's a real thing.
That happened,
yeah. I can't believe that happened. Like, that's crazy. Yeah.
All right. I know as artists, you have to, I like prefaced some of the questions by saying if this was too personal. But I'm wondering, are you in general open people, or is there something you like had to force yourself to do now when you're an artist?
Man, I think I've evolved. I think AP has helped me become a lot more open, like working with him. I think in general, I have been open-minded, but I've gone into music with my own preconceived notions. And I don't know if you're referring specifically to music, Chris, or in general, or
no, in general.
In general, yeah, I think like I'm pretty like I've always been of the mindset that oh, okay, this is a great reference. Actually, yeah, it's like our manager, even our manager Cheyenne, one of our managers. The reason we get along with him so well, I've realized, is because everyone on our team and everyone in this group is of a specific mentality called the yes and mentality, which is basically like in improvisation, right? When you improv, like when you do improv acting, whenever someone says like, you're building off other people's lines, right? Someone else like says something, you never deny what the other person said. If someone goes, "Oh my God, there's a blue whale there," you say yes, and the blue whale is so big. You never say, "No, there's no blue whale. What are you talking about?" Because then you're deflating the other person's sort of improvisation and like how they're taking the conversation. And the same mentality can be applied to music, to life in general. Is everything is worth trying out. Like say yes to everything as long as it makes sense. In the specific context of being creative and stuff like that, try everything out. If it doesn't work out, then you tried it out at least once, and don't beat yourself up over it. Everything's worth trying out. I think just embrace failure, be okay with fucking up, and I think I've always been sort of an open person, but I think working with Keralanka has made me 10 times more open for sure.
Yeah. With me, like I feel like I've always been like a very, very open person. I'm always open to just trying stuff out. And it's like you surround yourself with the people that you think are like that you see in them as well, that like, oh, like this person, like if I forget, like this person can raise me up back to that level of openness again, right? Because like you'll have moments when you slip in and out of it, right? You're not always going to be like the most like the super open person, right? You're gonna like slip in and out of it. And just surrounding yourself with people like that is so important. Because it's the crazy thing is, like Rohan said this before, how like I've helped him open up, but it's cool because like as a result, it's like even in the times when maybe I won't be as open, it's like naturally he'll like make up for that and then like pull me back up, which is dope.
Yeah,
I love surrounding myself with people like that. So I would actually like credit like a lot of the people I surround myself with too for just like keeping me open. Like I know I've been an open person, but like just the people help keep me at that level, and that's dope. Just a quick little story actually, just like about our studio sessions. Often like what'll happen. This is a great example actually of our dynamic. Sorry?
I know exactly where you're going with this.
Yeah. This is a great example of our dynamic, and like what I was just talking about. But it's like in our studio sessions, like Rohan will drag in some guitar over something. And I'll be like, oh, like that's cool, I guess. Like, yeah, it could work. And then he'll take some industrial loop and put it on top of this guitar. I'm like, okay, like possibly. But like the thing is, we've gotten very comfortable with just letting each other be in each other, like in our own zones. So it's like we know, because we've gotten comfortable with knowing, like, okay, who knows? Like this could be fire. If I leave myself open to this possibility, this could be like some crazy like stuff that I've never heard before, And often that's what happens. Like I might come in and add something, like he might stop feeling it, and I'm like, I don't know. And I'll be like, but then we'll switch perspectives. I'll be like, no, man, I think that sounds great. I think if we just add this, that could sound. He'll be like, I don't know. We'll sleep on it, and then the next morning, like if I was feeling it last night, I'll come back and be like, I don't know, man. I don't know if this is the idea. And he'll come back and be like, no, man. I think I actually switched, and I think it's actually the idea. But that's just a quick story about like how our dynamic often works.
That happens all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, I can definitely tell you you're not afraid to experiment a lot in your music. There's so much variety and influences of like everything. There's not like we have to make hard beats, only hard beats. There's like a mix of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that comes from, I think we're just influenced by so many different people that it's like, and we love them, and you know, we respect all our idols equally, right? We just want to pay homage to all of them, and at the same time, I think that that melting pot of influences creates our own sound as well. So I think that's why.
Exactly. Just being open to experimenting with new stuff as well. Yeah.
What would you say in like your music creation process? What has changed since you started in these, like, what is it, 3 years?
It's been
about 3 years, around
3
years.
What has changed? Well, I can speak to me specifically. Like, so as a rapper, prior to, I wasn't making music as intently as I started with Keralanka, but I think what I was used to a little bit more was just sort of like get a really good beat, write to it, or like produce a very simple beat, write to it, and record. I think working with AP, what's changed is now we're like so involved in the production, engineering, mixing, mastering, every piece of it. And it's made me appreciate the entire creative process so much more, because our first 2 or 3 tracks that we released, Cold Culture, Gandhi, and From, we must have spent months on those tracks, right? Nowadays, we make a track in like a week and we'll be like, oh, it's ready. But at that point, we were like, there was like 150 tracks, I think, to our debut single. And, you know, like we're like just like looking at every single detail and being like, oh, we should reverse this part. We should break it at this 1 millisecond. And, you know, this is our first track. We got to really think through everything. Like, I think that's sort of what's switched, is just valuing every single part of the process just as much as I valued the raps personally, you know, like valuing every single part. Yeah.
Yeah. And, yeah, for myself, I'm going to say it's like, just to quickly expand on Rohan's point, actually, is like, one second, I'm blanking. What was the thing I wanted to say?
Valuing every part of the process.
Yeah, you were talking about Cold Culture, right?
100.
Yeah, it's like it's cool because like a lot of the things that we'd spend so much time on in the early days have now, like, a lot of those things have become second nature just by practicing the process. Like that's the one reason why we're able to like be like, after like a week of working on a song, like, yo, I think this is ready, is like just we've gotten very comfortable in knowing how we each work individually, and then knowing how we work together, and just trusting that process, and just knowing we'll when we feel it's ready, like when there's that feeling of like, yo, this is it, like we've gotten very comfortable with like knowing like, okay, we can trust that feeling because it hasn't failed us yet, and so like we're just gonna keep going with that, you know. I think that's one thing, is just like the trust in our process is like definitely just gone up as a result of practice. Yeah.
I wanted to delve a little bit deeper into your experiences, as I know you touched briefly on it when you talked about your high school experience, but as a quote unquote brown kid, how was your experience growing up in Canada as a brown kid?
You know, I'm actually pretty good. I know I talked about a little bit of like the representation stuff in the other interview, but just my overall experience growing up, I think was pretty positive, I'd say. Like I've gone to the States, I've looked at the sort of contrast in regards to like Toronto versus like, I don't know, like Philly or something like that. And I think in retrospect, I really do appreciate where I grew up. Like Toronto, Brampton it's a suburb right outside of Toronto, because I think, you know, obviously I did have my struggles for sure, but I think overall, like, you know, most people embrace the idea of just different cultures, you know, like my black friends would try samosas. I would learn about Jamaican food. Like, I think in general, like that openness of sharing cultures is super dope. And just like Toronto, I love Toronto for that. Like, it's just such an awesome HubSpot for just like not making people conform and embracing your culture. So from that standpoint, it's super positive. Obviously, I think, I think in terms of my brownness, there's a lot of things I've realized now in 2020 or like in the past couple of years that I wouldn't have thought about growing up as a kid, like this internalized racism. Like I would use an Indian accent to make my white laugh, which I still like sometimes crack my Indian accent, but it's like now I realize the context of me talking about it with my brown friends who understand the nuance of the culture and like come at it from a positive place. That's very different than me trying to like tokenize myself, for example, right? Just to try and get a laugh from people who aren't really my friends. Those kind of things were really hard to identify growing up. And I think it's like sort of stuff that exists on a deep psychological level that I think as you grow up, you then realize and you notify those things, notice those things. But then what's dope is, I think generations like build on generations, right? Like the kids growing up today are probably, because of social media and that kind of stuff, they're probably a lot more sort of aware of that kind of stuff, right? Like for example, when I grew up, every brown kid grew up saying the N-word, right? Including me, like being completely transparent about it, right? That was something that was just like, oh yeah, you just say it, right? We didn't understand the nuances of the history of the word. It's like, you shouldn't say it if you're not black. But now I'll go on TikTok and like 12-year-old brown kids are like, you're trying to call out other brown kids using N-word, which I you have to go about it in a productive way, but it's like, the point being like they're much more aware of their identity, the social issues surrounding and stuff. And so I think, that's awesome to see. But yeah, a lot of these things I didn't necessarily reflect on until I was like more of an adult, for sure.
Yeah, same thing here. Like my experience growing up has been like very positive. I was actually thinking the same thing. It's like as a kid, like I wasn't aware of like any of this. Like I never thought about my brownness or anything like that. Like as a kid, I was just being a kid, I was just like doing whatever kids do. But it's like as you grow older, like you start to realize like the nuances, and also like also just like surrounding myself with someone like Rohan who's like a lot more aware of these things. Like I personally have picked up on so much more and just like learned so much more about the nuances that like I wasn't considering, right?
Yeah, and I think another thing is AP and I both grew up around, like Toronto and Brampton, Mississauga, like where we're from, has a lot of brown people. So like you grow up with other brown people. I think our experiences might be very different if we grew up in a town where there were no brown people, right?
Yeah.
Because then,
My experience personally here in Sweden was a little bit weird.
Are there a lot of minorities in Sweden?
Yeah, there's like Somalis and many Middle Eastern. Many people from the Middle East, but it depends on where you live. Like in the city, and like it's pretty mixed now. But I've also lived on the countryside, and there you have like there you really stick out.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like countryside versus city, like it's gonna your experience is gonna be very different based on that.
Yeah.
All right, AP, have you ever tried rapping?
Oh no. time to expose myself.
Sorry.
No, nothing to be sorry about. This is great. Okay.
Hey, you gotta answer the question, man.
I know. I'm
don't make me answer.
I'm prepping the story in my head of a perfect way to tell it, So when I started producing in 2016, the summer of 2016, I was making like a beat a day that summer. And at one point, like I had a few like really dope beats that I really liked. I'm like, oh, these could fit well in a project together, right? But like I wasn't working with Rohan, and like Rohan was like doing his own thing. So I was like, okay. And I was like, okay, do I know any like dope rappers? I'm like, no. I'm like, wait. But like, hey, Kanye just started producing, and then he's like, hey, I'm going to rap on my own beats, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, interesting.
Yeah. I love this story already.
I can do it.
So then I'm like, you know what? I used to like dabble in some poetry in high school. So I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna write a song. So I write this song. And then I recorded on my new mic and everything. I'm like pretty hyped about it. And then I send it over to Rohan. I'm like, basically Rohan's done this to me before, so it probably wasn't smart to do this to him because he knew exactly what I was doing. But I was like, hey man, I'm working with this new artist. And I don't know if I came up with the name, but I might have came up with the name. I was like, yeah, I'm producing for him. He just like rapped this out, like, yo, want to listen to this? And that's like the main part of the story. Because then, like later in the conversation, he's like, "Wait, is this you?" I was like, "Oh, damn."
Dude, I was listening to the voice, and I was like, "This sounds a lot like AP's voice." I'm like, "Are you trying to tell me it's not?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, I don't want to like tell you it's me, so you would be biased and all this stuff."
So yeah, that was like my first attempt at rapping. I think from like our live show practices now, I think I've gotten a lot better at when it comes to the actual act of rapping. I'm still like it's cool because like seeing Rohan write, I get to learn so much more about the writing process itself. Probably not something I'm going to like jump to, but who knows? Like I don't know. Yeah. Keep it open, right? Who knows? I don't know.
I personally, you know, I haven't told AP this, but I've always wanted to like low key teach him how to rap. And like,
I'm down.
I don't know if he's down. Okay, he's down. Perfect. Hey, Aspect Magazine, you got it.
No,
we got to hear first. We got to hear first.
No, because I think like what's dope is like Guilty Conscious by Dre and Eminem, how they go back and forth. Like, I think eventually really cool thing. It's like if AP cool. Like also I think people would probably be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
He's rapping. It would be such a moment. And
it would be a moment.
Yeah. It would be a moment.
I'm very open to it. I'm very open to it.
I'm down to, you know, coach him, and
of course,
maybe a couple of years, you know, you might see.
That's great.
Yeah. Rapping on a track, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, you might hear my my vocals buried in a few songs, just like doing some melodies or stuff, but that you won't be able to tell it's me because it's just like affected out and yeah.
What's your favorite song to perform? What gets the crowd most hype?
Okay, I have one in my head. Do you have one, Rohan?
Can I mention two? Like,
go for it.
Oh, 3. Oh man. All right, you start.
Okay, I'll start. So I guess. Okay, yeah, like there are a few favorites, but I'm gonna like keep it at this one, just because so Socrates Hits Blunt is I'm gonna consider it the underdog in our head because our first ever show, we're like, yo, should we even like perform Socrates? Like it doesn't seem like it's gonna like do much. Like it's like because like for us, like we're like it's a cool song, but like live, I don't know, will people like go off to it, like, or people give like what is this?
Too. It's like a bit weird. We're like, oh, but I don't know if we like with most songs we can sort of predict how people will react to it, right? Like we'll be like, okay, this is a mosh pit song. This is a vibe song. This is a sing along the words song. With Socrates Hits Blunt, it's like, okay, like what are people gonna do? I don't understand, right? Yeah.
Right. So our first show comes along, and we decide, you know what? We'll just do like the first half of that song because right in the middle there's like a gunshot and it switches beats. So we're like, we'll just do the first half, like a teaser. Like we test it out, you know. Like let's test the water. We didn't have any expectation for it, to be honest. Like we had no expectation at all for that song. We play it at the first show and people are moshing, singing the lyrics, and in the moment, like obviously in the moment you're just so in the moment that you might not fully take it in, but you are taking it in that like, wait, what? But it was like after that show when I like it really hit me like, whoa. People
that was an out-of-body experience, dude, because I remember like when I was rapping, I was like my mind split in half. like when that happened, because half of my mind was remembering the lyrics and was just rapping the lyrics and trying to like rap the lyrics, and I was running out of breath, so I was just trying to focus on that. The other half of my mind is like, dude, what the fuck is going on? Are people just mocking? Because that was like one of our first mock bits, actually.
Yeah.
That we ever like people. I was like, is this really happening right now? This is insane. Yeah.
So crazy. And then the funny thing is, like, by our third show that we did in December, that was our 250-person show. For that show, when we're figuring out the set list, we're like, hey man, was it the encore? It was the encore, right?
Yeah, the encore.
Yeah. So we're like, what should the encore track be? And we're like, hey, why don't we do Socrates Hits Blood? Like, I think it'll be a dope encore. So it went from like not even wanting to be on the set list to like being the full song. But for the third show, we did the full song as the encore song. So I would say like that's my favorite from that perspective.
Dope.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's really dope. I think for me, I'm gonna cheat and name two. One is Kumar, which is like the reason that's so dope to perform live is because it has a very repeatable chorus. It's like all these motherfuckers, all these motherfuckers, and our fans just fucking love that song because it has a lot with like racial identity as a brown kid, and like on the music video, people associate with that, all that stuff. So it's like it's dope to perform. Actually, I'll just answer this one. I'll answer with one. Yeah, Kumar, because I think like it's dope when we come out and we perform it. Like everyone is singing along with the hook, and just to hear 200 people in one room be like chant all these motherfuckers, all these motherfuckers, all these motherfuckers, all these motherfuckers, all these motherfuckers. Super dope. It's like it gives me shivers just thinking about it. And then on top of that, like when we end the track towards the end, we'll typically bring our friends on stage because that's like sort of the first track where we really involve the Keralanka universe, which is all these characters that our friends play and everything. So we'll bring like all of our best friends on stage and we'll be like, hey, we're all gonna vibe out together to the outro of this track, and like our friends will start dancing on stage and stuff. And it's like that's one of the dopest things about rap culture in general is like as you come up, you bring your homies too, right? Like you don't just bring yourself. And so that's always a dope moment to like bring them on stage and have them also share the experience that we're sort of experiencing, you know? Yeah.
Cool. I heard that Socrates track. That sounds. My first like reaction was, you guys must have had a lot of fun making this track. You just gave up that vibe.
Yeah, 100%. No, it was super fun to make it. I remember how we made it and everything. It was dope to just make. I think it very authentically reflects like where we were at that point in our artistic journey, you know? And I think that's the most important thing with music is sometimes you'll look back on a track and you'll be like, you'll criticize it or you'll have certain like cherry picking like comments about it, but then you have to remember like where you were at when you were making that track, and if it authentically reflects that period of your life, I think that's the most you can ask for, right? Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yes. I know you're again full-time artist. How was the decision to become a full-time artist? How did that come about, and how was it hard? I'm just thinking about fears and aspirations. It's a risky move.
Yeah, I'll start this out. Yeah, I mean, so before I went full time on Keralanka September, as of last September 2019, and before that I worked in tech for close to 4 years. I worked at SoundCloud and then a company called Shopify. And, you know, I think at SoundCloud, I wasn't, that was before Keralanka and everything. I didn't know if I wanted to work in the music industry as an artist or on the business side of things. But then as Shopify rolled around, I think, you know, actually when I first got my job offer for Shopify, this was May of 2017, or sorry, April of 2017, I got the job offer. I told AP, we were just starting to work together at the point. I told him, I was like, man, I want to let you know that I am eventually going to quit this job to pursue Keralanka full time. I told him that before I even started that job, you know, 2.5 years before I even quit and before I even went in full time. I told him that's my intention. I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I want to do that. That's my intention. And so over time, I think it was just a lot of realizations. I always had in the back of my mind, but I never set sort of a threshold or a point at which I would do it. And I think what really changed things was our live shows, like seeing people come out and support us, seeing the growth in regards to like doing 2 shows before I quit, like all that kind of stuff, and like people actually wanting to support us. I was like, okay, man, this is at a point where now I have to bet on myself. Like I have to take a bet on myself, a big bet on myself, where I need the extra time. I can't be coming home from work tired, 9 to 5, all these things. And I think I came to peace with all my fears, and I realized that, you know, fears, all these things, like, yes, but they exist, but you know, this is actually what made me make the decision. My mom is a realtor. She's a real estate agent, and she loves what she does. And I told her, Mom, like, you know, if you were to like, you know, if you were to like die in this moment, right, you would probably like, and had a flashback of your life, you probably only have the mind, like the brain mind space to think of 5 things, right? What are the 5 things that come to your mind that you're most grateful for before you die? And she said, yeah, you know, family. I would be thinking about you. I would be thinking about all the times, you know, we like, cause, you know, brought you here to give you a better life in Canada, all that stuff. And then she said, and real estate. I would think about real estate and how I achieved my dreams of becoming a realtor and all that stuff. I was like, that's so dope. That's so inspiring, Mom. And then I was like, man, if I were to die today, I would mention music. I would mention Keralanka. I would mention family, but I probably would not mention Shopify or my corporate job. Yeah. And so, you know, the thing that I'm spending the most amount of time on, 5, is something that I wouldn't even mention in the last 10 seconds of my death. And I was like, that's not a good way to live. Let me sort of like live from a perspective of working. Like I want to invest time and energy into something that actually, you know, I care about when it comes to my legacy. So that's sort of how I arrived at that decision.
All right.
That was dope.
That
was a dope answer.
Really dope.
Yeah, for myself, it was like there's so many things I want to do, right? I want to become a psychologist. I want to be successful in music production and just the music space in general, wherever this leads me past production as well, like engineering now, and who knows where it'll lead me, right? Maybe marketing, who knows? Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's a lot of things I want to do, and like to me, it was like I was weighing out like everything I want to do, and I'm like, what seems like the riskiest thing to do, right? And I was like, this is out of all my goals, this was the riskiest one to me. And the reason I looked at it like that is because I'm like, okay, I'm in my 20s. This is probably like compared to the future, this is when I'm going to have the least amount of responsibilities. It's just going to keep increasing, right? And I was like, if I don't do it now, it's going to be even harder later on. Like, sure, I could do it later on, but I was like, and another part of me was also like, if I can do this, like I have this mindset of like, it's like, it might not pay off in the short term, but I know it's going to pay off in the long term, right? And like I tend to approach all my goals like that, is like that's what keeps me going, is I'm always looking at that, and I'm like making sure that as long as I'm progressing towards it and not away from it, mm-hmm. I'm on the right path. And for me, it was that thought. I was like, okay, so if I can do this now, like that just proves to me like my process again. It comes down to just trusting my process and my intuition, and just trusting it to the point where it's like where I feel something is right, I'm like, I think this is it. And I felt that for this. And I know that when it gets to that point where I'm like, wow, like we're like making like millions off of Keralanka. At that point, it's like I'm gonna look back and be like, okay, wow, I'm very grateful to be here, one. But also like at that point, I'm gonna look at the rest of my goals and be like, oh, if I could do the thing that I thought was the riskiest, scariest thing, then I'm going to look at everything else and be like, it's not going to be a piece of cake, but it's going to be easier to not let the fears take over those things, because I've done this thing that I consider the riskiest thing at one point in my life. And that thought is kind of what led me down this path, because I was like, if not now, then I don't think I'm going to do it later. So I had to do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love your answers. Great.
Thank you.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about their package. So I've kind of got an idea, a little bit of the idea behind it, but how did you, but just in your own words instead, how did the idea come about?
I don't know. I don't know how it came into my mind, to be honest. But I think, okay, so we've been doing this thing called Corn Hub, which it's not what it's. It's because context. It's because our brand is corny as fuck music bangs.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
So that's and so our fans with the cornballs, and we started this like IG live segment called Corn Hub, where we basically like we make a beat in 15 minutes. Okay, the reason it's called Corn Hub is to play on words. We beat it up in front of you in 15. We make a beat in 15 minutes using our fans text us, and so I think that was like the initial point at which we're like, oh, live streaming.
Wait, I didn't catch. What did you say? You make.
We make a beat in front of our fans in 15 minutes on live streaming, and that was like the initial point at which we realized that live streaming music creation is something that our fans enjoy. And I think one day I was just chilling at home. I was probably stoned, and I was like, "Oh, this would be dope to do. Like, imagine if we just like streamed for 24 hours." And I think I called up Cheyenne, our manager. I was like, "What do you think of this idea?" I was like, "Yeah, that's dope, man. Just sit on it and see if it ages well." And then a month or two later, I was like, okay, now everyone's, at home in quarantine. We can't do any shows. Like, let's make the best use of our time because we can't put energy into like doing our shows. Our gigs got canceled. Let's like focus on this and like, let's try it. And we were comfortable enough with the idea of doing it for 24 hours in front of the camera that we're like, okay, let's just go for it.
Yeah. Just like quick. How did you like manage it? Since I didn't catch it, how did you manage it? Like, did you have a schedule when you took breaks, or did you just do it what felt right, or how did that work?
Yeah. So
go ahead.
So we tried coming up with somewhat of a schedule for certain things. Like just that really the point of the schedule was not to schedule out our creative process because that felt a bit too structured.
Yeah.
Like it didn't feel creative to be structured like that. Like we still want to let it flow. We were like, we still have 24 hours. So it's like we can still go on it like an hour to hour basis and just make sure we're on the way there. But like our scheduling was just more of like a few events we scheduled in where it's like, hey, you guys can tune in at these times if you want to see us like run through what we have so far, or hey, we're doing like a quick like Q&A chat with the fans. That's as far as the scheduling went. Other than that, we kind of just let the process flow. Like even like the idea of the album, we didn't really think about too much until like maybe the night before, and then like the day of is like when we actually had the conversations of any ideas we've had individually. And that's like we wanted to keep it as organic as possible, basically.
Initially, though, we did schedule in sleep breaks. Like we were like, okay, AP is going to sleep for 3 hours, then I'll sleep for 3 hours. Did not happen. Nope. Not happen.
I got an hour though. I got an hour
because I realized he was like super dead. I was like, okay, AP, you need to sleep for at least an hour because I'm going to need you in like 2 or 3 hours to be like have a functioning brain. So just go sleep for an hour. But he slept for 1 hour. I didn't sleep at all. Insane.
So you didn't sleep at all?
I didn't sleep at all. Though.
Oh wow.
He was fine. Like it was a smart move that he told me to sleep though, because I'm the type of person who like sometimes I'll be a bit like adamant, like no, I'm fine.
Yeah,
like, I can do this. Like sometimes the belief gets a bit too high, and but then I knew like for like that portion of the live stream, I had my like hand on the trackpad and like my hand on the keyboard. I just kept like clicking on the same thing on the screen, and then I think that's when Rohan's words really hit me. I was like, okay, maybe I do need to take a nap because like I'm not doing anything right now.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, go sleep. Let me just handle this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get any did you take any feedback from the live audiences, or did they just witness what you were doing?
Yeah, it was so it was interesting because a lot of people wanted to like it's an interesting balance. We don't want the audience to necessarily dictate the entire creative direction, because then I feel like it's sort of a sensitive topic, right?
Yeah.
It's like you have a certain vision as an artist you don't want to, that you have in your head. You don't want the audience to conflate that. But we did have we do enjoy interaction with our fans, so we sprinkled in little things like, okay guys, these are our 2 drum loops or 2 kick sounds that we're picking from for these samples. You guys get to decide kick 1 or kick 2, but it's always from a standpoint of, hey, we like both these kicks and both of them would do the job well. Yeah. Now you guys, versus letting them dictate the overall creative process. So yeah, people were cool. Like people were voting and polls and stuff, which was dope.
Yeah, that was cool to just interact with people on that level, and yet it's we're still dictating our own creative process, but it's hey, if you can help us make a decision that we're having a hard time making ourselves because we like two things so much, it's oh, why not get an external opinion on it, just to speed up that part of the process while still staying true to it.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting process. Just having not like you said, not complete dictated by what people want, but still a little bit of interaction.
Yeah.
What was some of your favorite moments during the stream or during the whole 24 hours?
Oh man,
one just popped up.
I'll start. I think I think AP knows where I'm going to mention. So at the beginning of this of the EP, you'll hear the EP starts off with this airplane noise, and yeah, basically so. I This is hilarious, man. This is so funny to say. Okay, so the way that came about, it's so cool to think back to how it actually happened. So we're just sitting there and we're like, man, how is this EP gonna start? I described to AP my artistic intention with making it feel a bit more closed in, a bit more anxious, all the stuff, but I didn't know how it was gonna sound necessarily. And then I went out to my living room and I took a hit, a little bit of just I took a hit real quick, came back. And then I'm chilling and AP's just pauses Ableton for a second. And then I'm like, oh my God, AP, did you hear that? And basically outside, there was the sound that happened outside, okay? And it was I don't know what it was. I want to think it's a plane, but I don't know if it was a plane. It was
it sounded too close to be a plane, but it sounded like a plane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was but I was like, AP, stop. I was like, man, did you hear that? And he was like, yeah, I think I know. Yeah, there's just something outside. I'm like, man, that's it. I'm like, he's like, what do you think? Like, that's how we're starting the EP. Can we make a sound? And he was like, yeah, it's kind of sounded like a plane. So he went on and he found a sound, and I was like, oh my God, that sounds exactly what I just heard outside. And I was like, I don't know what it is about that sound, but it evokes a certain emotion and feeling, and it sets the mood and setting in such a way where it just made sense with what we were going for, And that's how I even started to think about the name djAP package and everything. So I was like, oh, that's dope. Let's go for that. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, it's if that sound, if I never heard that sound outside, I have no idea what that sound was, but whatever that sound was, if that never happened, djAP package might be a completely different project.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because literally that first sound ended up helping dictate the direction and everything for that EP. Even if the tracks after sound nothing like that sound.
Or imagine if I was in the living room and that sound happened, and then
exactly. So it would have taken a completely different path.
Yeah.
So that was gonna be my favorite moment, but I just thought of something actually, something that only hit me this morning. When I woke up, actually, just a quick thought I had was about my favorite moment was I'm actually gonna say my favorite moments of this, I'll explain why, but my favorite moments of this whole process were probably how everything started going wrong in the beginning. So basically, let me explain to you what happened. the night before with this, it was supposed to be a live stream where I'm at my house and he's at his house and we're streaming together.
Mhm.
But the software we're using that night while we're doing a test run stopped working. Like it just wasn't letting us do.
Yeah. At 3 a.m. the night before, because like we're supposed to start at noon the day of, and we're supposed to sleep at like midnight or something. But there's a bunch of technical stuff we haven't figured out, so it's 3 a.m. and it just stops working.
Yeah, 3 a.m. stops working, and we're like, oh man, what do we do? What do we do? And we're like, okay, you know what? I think the only thing we can do is we have to meet up. Like there is no, like if we're making, like we've put so much effort into marketing this and everything, like we can't just not, like we it has to happen. So okay, we figured that out. We're like, okay, cool, we'll meet up. I come over to Rohan's house. We start the live stream, everything, and then when it comes to like me searching through my sound packs that I have on my hard drive, even before that, his USB hub stops working, so we can't plug in my push and my hard drive and his audio interface because he only has 2 USBs.
Oh, yeah.
So we're like, oh, what do we do now? And we're like, okay, you know what? We don't need the push. We can use the computer keyboard or we can swap things. It's fine. We'll adapt. And then I plug in my hard drive and then my hard drive's not working.
Oh, so, come on.
The library of sounds that I used to use.
3 years of making music every day, it's never not worked.
Wow.
This never happened. Never happened. Like my hard drive has never failed me until that day. And now it's just dead. So I'm rebuilding it slowly, but all happened that day. But then the cool thing, like I was reflecting on this morning, I'm like, the cool thing is all of that chaos was very reflective of this whole time period right now of like, it can feel like everything's going wrong, but you can still like just roll with the punches and figure out how to make the best of it. And like, I think it worked to our advantage because like it forced us to use like different samples, different sounds, and it created Dear Package, which was like, I'm very happy with what we created as a full product, which is dope.
Yeah, so AP was so bummed out when everything was going wrong, and I was just like, dude, like let's just embrace everything going wrong and use it to our advantage. Just think about it as another constraint, and that can reflect the EP in itself, right?
I think that's why it was like one of my favorite moments is because like looking back on it, especially, and this is funny. This actually ties into what I was talking to earlier in the interview, where like later on you look at things at different depths and you start realizing things you didn't in the moment. But one of those things for this EP was like just all those moments of it going wrong kind of helped create, because we wanted the EP to kind of reflect what was going on in the moment. Like we didn't want to call it like coronavirus, but like or like something like that. But like we wanted to reflect the feeling of like that anxiousness of like, oh, things are going wrong. Like, and it was cool because that's actually what happened in the process, which kind of also made us anxious, which I think would have actually helped us add to the feeling of like trying to feel that and then just communicate that to the listener. So from that perspective, I'm going to actually say like those are, looking back, those are some of my favorite moments, but not in the moment.
That's cool. I would like to know a little bit more about the art, the features you have on the project. I think Ranji, IMMC, and Jade.
Yeah. Range, IMMC, and Jade. Yep. Yeah. Did you just want us to describe who each of them are? Or?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, Range is so. I mean, it was pretty cool. Just like how, first of all, like how the features came about. Like it was dope because I was just like, we were working on the second track, Market Mania, and it sounded very different from what it sounds like now. But I was like, oh man, this part is dope. Like we should get a vocalist on this. But Range is my cousin actually. And I was basically like, I just hit him up and I was like, hey man, like on the stream, I called him. I was like, hey man, are you down to like track something right now and send it back? Like I wrote something. He was like, yeah, man, let's do it. And it was cool because everyone's at home and there are other artists with studios at home. It's like, they're down to be a part of the process, right? Which I think is super exciting. It's super cool to like, I think even for the fans to see me call someone and be like, yo, this is the idea, then have them record it back at their house. He's in like New Jersey, which is like not even in the same country as us. Send it back virtually, and then us mix it in, right? I think it's like a super cool process, like the internet, right? And so yeah, that's how we got his vocals on there. And then at the same time, my homie IMMC, Marcus, who I've known for a while, I used to rap with him in a rap group we used to be both part of. He was like, hey man, I don't want to steal the spotlight, but like if you need a feature, let me know, kind of thing. And I sent him the beat. He wasn't really feeling it actually, but then he was like, hey, I don't know if this is good, but here it is. And then he sent it back, and I was like, man, we can work this in. Like, this is great. Like, and so it just all happened very organically, which is awesome. Super happy to, it happened organically. And Jade actually is a homie of mine who, my little sister, basically, not my biological little sister, but she's like my little sister. And I'm pushing her to record music for a while, because she's like a live performer and she's an amazing vocalist. She performs at her church and everything all the time, but she's never like recorded music. And so I've been pushing her to like sort of like, get her vocals out there for a while now. I'm so glad she did such a good job, and I'm glad that this project is inspiring other artists and not just us as well, because our big goal of ours is not just to come up by ourselves, but inspire other people to also pursue their own journeys, right? And now apparently SoundCloud rappers are hitting up Jade for features. So.
Oh, that's dope.
Oh, that's dope. That's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a quick thing, even like on Marcus's vocals, IMMC. Yeah, like when Rohan hit him up, like I was just producing the beat, and like Market Mania at that point was just like the first half of the beat, like that was the whole beat. The second half hadn't even come to fruition yet. Like we had like a loop that we're like, oh, maybe we could fit this in, but we didn't know. So it was just like, it was muted. Marcus records his vocals, and like Rohan's like, yeah, like he's not really feeling it. Like, you think we can make this work? I take a listen. I'm like, the recording's a bit boxy, but like, you know what? I think we could actually use this to advantage in the mix. Like somehow we can make this work, So we go with it, and then we actually end up changing the beat. And then we figure out, oh, Marcus's vocals fit way better over this part of the beat, because it just fits so well. And like at that point, it was like it was just like an ode to our process again, of like, hey, like something might not sound right at the beginning, but by the end, like you can I'm willing to bet on myself that by the end of the process, like it's gonna sound right,
Yeah.
That was a dope part of the feature process, was just finding ways to make people's voice work, or like how Rohan was just hearing people's voices in his head, and like that makes him sound kind of crazy.
I am crazy,
but yeah, you know what I mean.
You are inspired by Kanye.
And he is crazy. Yeah.
I've heard you had an album in the works, because right now you're mainly only basically singles. Do you think you're more of a singles kind of group, or did it just happen by organically?
Oh man, I think they both like uniquely satisfy different creative cravings, right? I think like singles give you the opportunity to put something out in isolation that you might be really inspired by, right? Like our latest single, Dilemma, which is like very 2000s R&B rap influence. I don't think we would put out an entire album with that sound. Maybe, I mean, future, who knows? But I've never really had the urge to like, oh, let's make an entire album full of like this kind of like old nostalgic like 2000s R&B rap. But like when we made that track, I was really feeling that vibe. I was like, oh, I really want to make this. And you can't, if you just constrain yourself to albums, you can't really do that, right? Because then it has to fit within a certain theme. You can't just like have a random track on there. Otherwise it's a playlist, not an album really. But on the flip side, with albums, it's like, and obviously we haven't released our debut album, but with projects in general, you get to like really focus in on a level of cohesion, and you really get to like drive a point across, which I think is so creatively satisfying, man. And I can't wait till the day that we release our debut album, because we're sitting on so many demos and stuff, and I can't wait to even just like after quarantine, like just AP and I, like I've told them, like, dude, we need to go to like a cabin, like rent out a cabin, go there and just finish the album. I'm so excited for that. It's just like, it's going to be so exciting to make. I think it satisfies such a different creative craving.
Yeah.
Even just making an EP too, right? It's like you're thinking about how does track, like, should this be track 3 or track 2? And how does track 3 make sense coming in from track 2? Like the stuff like that, I think is something, it's a level of creativity you don't get to explore with albums. So the answer, it's a lazy answer, but it's like both, right? We're an album group or a singles group, but we enjoy both for what it is, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, just to quickly like hash out a few of my thoughts, very similar thoughts though. So I'll keep it short, but like, just that idea of like, it's singles are dope because they don't box you in to something. Like if I'm feeling something today and I want to make it, like I have the freedom to like just make it and put it out as a single, right? It doesn't have to like match my last single I put out, or like it's a way to experiment freely, basically, without like any boundaries or restrictions. But then also there's a beauty in the creative process when you start putting certain restrictions on, because you don't look at them as restrictions, but rather than like guidelines, you know. And that's when like an album or a project becomes really dope, because like, it's about sequencing. It's about how can you create a whole journey, really, right? Is like the way I like to look at it, like a story. I tend to look at a lot of things like stories, and again, like even if the album is not a very obvious story, like the feeling or the journey of like the feelings we take you on to feel like a story. So they're both very like, they're both great in their own respects. Like they fulfill different creative needs.
Yeah, cool. It made me think a bit about Kendrick Lamar's "To Pimp a Butterfly" when he released "I" as a single. I remember the reception that had. People were like, "Oh, he's falling off. This is awful." But then after hearing it in context with the whole album, it was so beautiful and fit so like perfectly and made so much sense.
Exactly. And actually, same thing happened with Kendrick on Good Kid, Mad City. He released Backseat Freestyle, and people were like, "Oh my god, trap banger!" But then it's like, when you hear it come off, "Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe," when they're like, "I got a pack of blacks and a beat CD. Get your freestyles ready," and then it goes off. Now you're like, "Oh shit!" Like it makes like he's being his young, ignorant self. This is fire.
Yeah.
You know, context is so important. That's why I love albums.
Context is huge, and it's cool because like there's context in the perspective of an album, but I think like even when we work on singles, we found a way to satisfy that feeling a bit. It just hit me right now, and because basically what we do is like, for example, like Rohan will put in an element, and then I'll like pull up this other, like this, I don't know, like some sort of high pitched synth or something that on its own, like it sounds like, I don't know if I like it, you know. But as soon as it's paired with something else, it completely changes how it feels, how it sounds. And like it's cool. I think we found ways to satisfy that feeling in both the singles and like now like working on projects.
Yeah. A bit of a tangent, but I just want to say, because people aren't saying it enough, all right? Kendrick Lamar is the motherfucking GOAT, okay? He's the greatest. I'm scared to say that right now. Top 1 of all time, all right? I don't think it's too early to say that or anything. I think his run has been fucking monumental. He's definitely influenced me. Like he's the rapper that's influenced me the most, and I've come to peace with. He's really, from my eyes now, I'm comfortable saying that he's the greatest rapper of all time from my personal perspective.
Yeah, you won't get a disagreement from me because I really value him very highly, and his like whole discography is amazing. How he can make it impresses me how consistent he is. Like the quality never drops. And
they're so distinctly different from each other. He's not doing the same thing. Right? It's like a guy who has Section 80, Good Kid, Mad City, and To Pimp a Butterfly as classic albums, and they all sound so distinctly different from each other. I think that's so fucking dope, man. It's like he never like Top said, Top said before they released To Pimp a Butterfly, they called some of their industry homies and they were like, "Yo, we have an album that I think is going to challenge our fans. Some of our fans are going to get pissed off by it." And they were like, "It feels authentic. Drop it." It's amazing.
And it's also just impressive how he can make. There's like a message in every one of his albums, and there's like it impressed me how how one even can become so creative, and each of them have such a unique and different message. And
that's it's a huge inspiration when it comes to zoning in on a theme, because I think, you know, Kanye's a great inspiration too, but I think Kendrick has done that better than anyone personally, I'd say, from a story-based writing perspective. Is, you know, saying Section 80, it's a double entendre between like living in Section 80 but also growing up in the 80s and the Ronald Reagan crack era, like, you know, a Butterfly, those Tupac, To Pimp a Caterpillar, like Good Kid, Mad City, MAAD, My Angels on Angel Dust. Like, he dives into the nuances of the story in such a beautiful manner, and that's fucking incredible to
me. Who are some of your favorites, AP?
My favorite rappers?
Yeah, sure.
Or artists, yeah.
Or artists in general.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm definitely gonna say Kendrick. Kendrick is definitely like one of my favorite rappers. I think like Rohan has definitely like we actually took into Pimp a Butterfly together. Like for my first time, at least, I listened to it in Rohan's basement, and that was an experience, man. That was because like I'm a very like, it makes sense why I went to production, but I'm a very like beats guy. Like I'm very much into the production element of things, and like back in high school, for example, I used to be the guy who just listened to mostly. I was just mostly conscious of like the production. I didn't take in the lyrics too much. To Pimp a Butterfly was like the first time that I didn't get too caught up in the production or the engineering, but I was taking it all in as a whole. I was listening to what he was saying. And like that, I think that's powerful, because like as someone who's not used to taking it in, if you can make me take that in as a writer, like that means something, you know. That's dope. So yeah, Kendrick is definitely up there. Back in high school, and I mean still now, like Nas is like been one of my favorite rappers.
Oh yeah.
And then production wise, that's a much easier question for me to answer, being a producer. But production wise, I'm gonna have to say, oh man, okay, Pharrell, Kimbo. Actually, no, not even just Pharrell. I'm gonna say the Neptunes. You know,
you gotta say the Neptunes.
Yeah.
Shout out to Chad. Shout out to Chad. Yeah. Pharrell, Timbo, Kanye, A.R. Rahman, who's a Indian composer. Yeah, I think, and Diplo.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, Diplo. I know.
Cool.
Yeah.
I would also. I don't have too many questions left, but just to get a little bit more of an idea what kind of music you listened to growing up. When you mentioned Tamil music, could you give me like, could you hook me up with something like this artist or something, or maybe there's too many songs?
There's a lot of songs. It's gonna be hard to think of a specific song.
You can share it on email later.
Yeah,
I could do that. Yeah. But in general,
so the ones that go off at the receptions when you do DJ gigs.
Yeah, so like those ones are dope. They're like very like high energy, like party songs. But then I'm also very into like the melody, like the melodic, slower stuff, which is and as I grew up, I started realizing that a lot of the stuff I was into as a kid was actually composed by A.R. Rahman, who was one of my influences. So a lot of his stuff in like the late 90s, early 2000s era, like that was a lot of stuff I grew up with in that genre.
Ilya Raja is fire too.
What?
Yeah.
There's a guy named Ilya Raja. Who? How do you spell it, AP?
ILAIYARAJA.
Yeah. He's also a film composer, Tamil Indian film composer. He's amazing too.
Cool. Yeah. All right. All right. I'm pretty much done. I would really like to thank you for joining me. This is my first ever interview, So
no.
Hey, dude, what?
Hey, yo, you killed it, man.
oh, thanks.
That was your first interview? What the hell?
Yeah.
Oh,
I was really nervous, and I thought it was a fun way to like challenge myself. Yes, my English is really rusty because I went to an English school here in Sweden, but there have been so many years where I've been like away from English, so I felt a little bit uncomfortable. But I thought, why not force me out of my comfort zone a bit?
You dove outside your comfort zone, and honestly, like speaking, like as artists, like I want to say that I don't think anyone's asked us. Like, I don't think anyone's done that much research on us. I really appreciate.
That was super.
Yeah, no, and amazing questions, dude. Great job. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
It's cool because I was like, oh, dope. Like people have a lot of their go-tos for interviews, right? And like this, I enjoyed this interview a lot because it was just yeah, a lot of questions we haven't answered before.
Yeah,
I guess like that comes down to just doing your research and stuff. So like, yo, keep that up, man. Like I'm actually pretty shocked that this is your first interview.
Yeah.
And then keep us updated on your journey if we can ever help you out with your journey. Like, you know, keep us updated on just like your writing and everything.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
You know,
Yeah,
I love seeing people do what they love and you know, excel in the craft. So it's really cool to see you do what you're doing with journalism, like what we're doing with music.
Yeah.
And appreciate you reaching out and asking for this and setting this up, man.
Yeah, yeah, you didn't have to do that. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
This was really fun.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
All right. I hope you stay safe and healthy.
Yeah, you too.
Have a good one.
Awesome. You too, man.
Right,
Cheers.
You too, man.
Ready to count my days, enemies out to blaze my soul, pretend to be out my way, then jump on my path just to delay my goals. It take a toll day to day, but I'm still remaining grounded. Agencies pay to play, raking into the Cayman Islands. I'm trying to build my team an ocean, homie, they can dive in. So keep the greater commas between us like Vegas mantras. If you with it, then
It's my dog catching a body, I feel like it's